Hello everyone, and welcome to my first YouTube video on this channel. I'm here with all my equipment, all my stuff that I do astronomy with, and I just wanted to start this channel as a way of showing to people that you don't need expensive stuff that you see. I just got started with astronomy really this year. I've always looked at the moon and the planets and whatnot with this telescope, but right at the beginning of the COVID pandemic, I really learned that there's a lot more to astronomy than people think. And there's a lot of stuff you can do with seemingly cheap equipment like these binoculars and this old telescope. So let's go through that. All right, so first getting into visual astronomy. Now this is by no means the best way to do it, but this really worked well for me. The first thing that I did when I first got into deep sky observing with this telescope is get a good app on your phone or a good program of your computer that's a planetarium, just to help you get used to the constellations, positions of the sky, and the movement of planets and whatnot. Another good thing, you can print out yourself online. This is in the bottom of my basket here. It's pretty tattered up, but this is a planisphere or planisphere. I've never heard anyone else say it, so I don't know. But I made this myself. You can print them out, and they twist around. Oh God, there we go. They twist around around the point where Polaris would be, and that is roughly where the North Celestial Pole is. So when you line it up, there's days of the year as well as the time of night. So when you rotate it, you can see where the constellations are going to be, and that helps you really learn what all the constellations are. Another good thing, maybe you need something out in the field. You can't just learn everything and memorize it the first night you go out. For that, I recommend a copy of Night Watch by Terence Dickinson. I just found this in my bookcase. It's probably at some local thrift store or maybe your local astronomy store. But this is a really good book if you're just getting into the hobby. It's got diagrams of our scale of our galaxy, our local stars, as well as guides on how to buy telescopes and binoculars and all these different awesome things. Really just a great book. And in the end, you have your star charts. So when you're out in the field, you have your star charts right in front of you. Now, one thing you'll hear everyone say, including myself, is don't use a white light, don't use your cell phone, because that ruins your night vision. You're trying to look at these faint things. So you really need your dark vision. So for that, if you want to look at your star charts, one thing that I think everyone will say this is the best thing to buy is a cap light, and one that goes red. So I see lots of these at your local, I don't know, Canadian Tire. They're everywhere. You just pick them up and make sure it has a red light, because when you're looking at this, you look at your charts, and it's a nice red light, and it doesn't ruin your night vision. You can still see the faint Milky Way with your naked eye in the middle of the summer, or the Andromeda Galaxy. Whereas if you turn on the white light out in the dark, I've done that too many times to count, accidentally turn on the white light, and then you just get the blotch in the middle of your vision. It takes another 10 minutes to go away. But this red light is really good because you can look at all your charts, figure out where everything is. I'm looking at Sagittarius here. And yeah, this really helps you learn. So out in the field, copy a Night Watch and a red cap light. Now, another thing I recommend when you're first starting out is a good pair of binoculars. These really help you learn the constellations. And with a nice pair of binoculars like these, and you don't really need to break the bank. I just got these as a gift. I don't even know what the specific model is. But with a good pair of binoculars, you can see things that you can't even see with your naked eye. I've seen the Dumbbell Nebula with these, pretty faint, but it's there. The Orion Nebula, the Andromeda Galaxy, some of the brighter Messier objects for sure. These really help. When you're first starting out, get a good pair of binoculars. So these ones are 10 by 50s, so the magnification is 10 times. But another nice thing to have, this is a new thing from Orion telescopes and binoculars. You don't need this, but this, it really helped me out. I got these later on, but they might be a good pair for the very beginner. These would have been nice for me when I first started, actually. But these are 2 by 54. Okay, 2 by 54. And they got a big field of view, so you can see an entire constellation. You can see Ursa Major easily. in this. And this also helps with constellation positions. So when you're first learning out star positions, trying to find those deep sky objects, I recommend a good pair of binoculars, and you can really get used to where things are in the sky. So binoculars, your star charts, red light for your first few nights out, really learn the sky. That's how I did it, and it really worked for me. Okay, so you learned your star positions, and you used your copy of Night Watch or your other star charts, and you learned where all the deep sky objects are, and you're familiar with the sky. So great, where do we go from here? Well, you need a telescope to see all these cool things. Now, I see a lot online that equatorial mounts are hobby killers, when in reality, I don't think that's the case. If you can motivate yourself to stick it out and learn this, this is a great way to learn the movement of the stars and the planets more than you think. Like, you get a deeper knowledge of it just by learning how to polar line and how the planets and the moon move along the ecliptic and whatnot, instead of just like going out every night, oh, point, shoot. You don't really learn in your head how things move. And that's more of an interesting thing about astronomy that I like, just the more in-depth knowledge. So an equatorial mount really helped with that. You don't need to break the bank at all. This was a gift. There's probably somebody in your family with a telescope you can ask to borrow. But this is a 4.5-inch Newtonian reflector, so it's got aperture of 4.5 inches. So this has a mirror in the back, and all the light it collects from here gets focused here through a secondary mirror. You can see the spot in the middle, maybe? Nope. I don't know. Just Google a diagram of the light paths and you'll understand it. But these are pretty good. I've never owned a refractor, which uses a lens at the front, but I know they have a thing called chromatic aberration, which I don't really see on this unless I'm using a really bad lens or eyepiece. So yeah, this was good for me. So I don't get that chromatic aberration where the different colors are refracted differently from just the natural way that lenses are. So this really got me going. You'd be surprised with how much stuff you can see with just a small telescope. You always see pictures of the Orion Nebula and whatnot. You can never expect Hubble quality with your backyard scopes, but this can get you a pretty good way there. Yeah, so a telescope is a must-have. You don't need to break the bank at all. Maybe $200 just to get yourself into the hobby. Don't get a really cheap one you'll see on the box, 300 times magnification, when in reality the most important thing is aperture. Now, don't start off saying, well, I need a 12-inch, that's the best. No, because you might not learn it right away, and then you'll just end up thinking that you're wasting your own money. So start off with something smaller, but definitely don't go too cheap. Now, I think 4.5 Newtonian reflector on an equatorial mount, that worked the best for me. Helped me learn the sky. I could see lots of the Messier objects. I haven't actually done this for like a full year. I started doing astronomy really in May, so I haven't seen all the Messier objects yet, but you can see a lot of them in here. So there's a lot of cool stuff you can show off to your family and friends and even wow yourself with a small telescope like this. Okay, so you spent your first night out with your telescope. You saw maybe the moon, some planets, maybe the Andromeda Galaxy, and now you want to memorize them and cherish that moment. So what I recommend, what I got, I started this back in August, is a journal. So what I did, the first thing I remember drawing, and I still have the date listed down here, is the Lagoon Nebula. So one night I went out and I pointed this at the Lagoon Nebula, and it was pretty faint at first, but with this journal, just drawing it down, you get more and more stuff popping out at you, and you get that detail that you don't initially see. So by forcing yourself to draw it and looking, okay, see how far this star is from that, okay, write that down. And then eventually, as you get more in tune with the image that you're seeing, you see more and more of it. So it's brighter, more extended, like the Lagoon Nebula just got bigger and bigger every time I looked back through the eyepiece from the journal. So this is a cool thing to have, as well as recording what things you've seen, how you're learning the constellations. I wrote down, oh, I can recognize Sagittarius now, and it's just more of a personal growth thing. I remember when I first started, it really helped me so I could understand, go back the next day, read what I wrote the night before, and just memorizing that, and you build up your own experience that way. Now, when you're using this, you might need a lawn chair because You can't stand there hunched over looking in the eyepiece and you're going to shake and whatnot. So a lawn chair is just a good thing to bring, and just generally when you're looking through the telescope. So yeah, I am by no means an expert, but the stuff I have shown today has really gotten me going. I really started this in May. I've always looked at the planets and the moon and whatnot, but really learning the constellations and the movements of the sky and the moon and the planets, this stuff that I talked about today really got me going. So I hope you can take my information and apply it to your own journey. Maybe you're just starting out, which is great, because this is all a learning experience. Now, I always see channels on YouTube of astrophotography and whatnot, which is great, but there's nothing really catered to the visual astronomer, or at least not for my lame research. So maybe you don't know how to polar line, which I didn't. So you go online and, oh, well, look through your polar scope. Well, I don't have a polar scope, so I had to figure that out myself. So I'm making this channel to make it easier for people like me, who don't have expensive equipment, who don't really know what they're doing. So I hope we can take this YouTube channel as a community experience for all of us to share ideas of visual astronomy and things like that. So yeah, until next time, thank you for watching.